It was during the fall about 2 years ago when I had just moved into my old house. I say that because I couldn't stay there for more than a few months. The landlord ended charging me a large fee for breaking the contract. I was just happy to get out of that place. When I first looked at the house, I fell in love with it. There was so much light because of the big windows that showed the many trees on the outside. My favorite part was that the trees covered up the rest of the houses that were far enough away so that I could proudly say that I had no neighbors. For a girl from the city, this was unheard of and a dream of mine. Weird, I know. Everything about the house looked amazing, and the owner of the house seemed very interested in renting it out to me. For $700 a month, the place was a steal. But the cancellation fee for leaving before my 1-year lease was twice that amount, and there were some other fees involved. I don't know. Maybe I was too excited at the time, so I just signed and started moving in. I was in Hannersville for a temporary 2-year contract job, and I moved out on my own, so I had my U-Haul van stuffed to the top with my stuff, and literally parked in a hotel parking lot about a mile away from the house. So I decided to walk back and start moving in that same day. The owner gave me the keys and I decided to walk back instead of taking an Uber. I figured I'd get to know the neighborhood a little better at the same time. All I could see were other run-down houses, spread too far apart, all around the street. It was getting darker when I finally saw the stop sign up ahead and the light from the Star Hotel to the right of the intersection. I crossed a two-way highway and rushed into the hotel room to get my backpack and cell phone charger. I got into the moving van, left the keys, and off I went to the house. All I needed to do that night was to move in my futon right into the living room and continue the rest of the move in the morning. But I hadn't seen the place in the dark. Suddenly, the beautiful trees looked like dark, outstretched arms with deep shadows between them. The door squeaked when I opened it. I didn't remember it doing that. I flicked on the light to that nasty warm yellow color that showed me the deep grooves and crevices of the old walls. The spots on the carpet were even more noticeable at night. The futon was right within reach inside the van. It was the last thing I loaded on because I wasn't even planning on bringing it. Good thing I did though. I opened it up in the living room, facing the front door, and unfolded two blankets onto it. I had been so involved with this that I forgot to have dinner. But just as I was looking for a place to charge my phone, I heard a knock on the door. Maybe it was the owner checking up on me, I thought. I went to the door, opened it, and saw nobody there. Maybe the door was rattling, or the house was settling, like they said in the movies. But boy, was I wrong about that place. I nervously curled up on the futon, finally plugged in my phone, and turned on Netflix. I had a few movies downloaded for the trip because I knew I wouldn't have Wi-Fi. I fell asleep, but kept waking up to the sound of disco music. As soon as I wiped my eyes and really woke up, the music stopped. Then it happened again as I heard voices of what sounded like a party with glasses clinking and the chatter mixed with people laughing faintly in the next rooms. I woke up for probably the 10th time that night, around 3 a.m. Was time really this slow? I woke up in a red couch and a green lamp next to me, and it seemed very early in the morning. And so many things ran through my head as I thought of all those abductions I've heard about on TV. I got up and ran to the door only to see 2 yellow cars in the front driveway. The trees were lush and green. The most memorable scenario I could remember was the woman with the flowers coming up to me, up on the porch, calling me Sandy, as she tried to convince me to follow her into her garden, telling me that she set aside a patch just for me. Her yellow teeth glowed as she grinned. "Let's go, come on," she told me. reaching out to grab my arm. I backed into the house, nearly tripping on the coffee table as I made my way back to the couch. I was so confused. A coffee table? I felt like throwing up. She followed me into the house, her grin coming closer and closer to my face. I then remember waking up to the sound of an old truck passing by in front of the house. I looked around the empty living room. I examined the brown futon. I was back. It was a dream. The days went on and I moved into my own room with curtains and my old Bluetooth speaker. The whole place felt a little better for the most part, except for the weird nights. There's something bizarre about waking up inside of a dream that really messes with you. But it gets worse when you realize you aren't dreaming at all. I would hear the name Sandy in my dreams, like someone yelling, and then laughter. The flower woman would approach me in almost every dream, offering to show me the patch in her garden. She would follow me around, and just when I felt like she was going to get me, I would wake up. For months, I lived like this. I had no friends at work yet, so I would basically Google what had happened to me, but to no avail. The last time I saw her, she followed me into the bathroom. Her dirty hands holding about a dozen dried up carnations reaching out to me, as her dried up face kept grinning with those long, yellow teeth. I yelled as I fell to the soft floor and I kicked at nothing in front of me, as I could feel myself finally waking up. The sudden gush of cold air took away my breath as the scene came into view. The full moon above me, the sounds of crickets and the silhouettes of the dark trees around me. As I moved my elbow under me to get up, my head hit something sharp. I got up as fast as I could before my eyes fully adjusted to let me know that I was behind my house with a rusty shovel next to me. Startled, confused, and creeped out, I ran back to the side door, but it was locked. I ran to the front door, only to find out that it had also been locked. The extra key was under one of those fake rocks by the side door, so I grabbed it and managed to get myself back in. I watched the sun come up that night, afraid to fall asleep again. I moved back to the hotel the next day. The owner sighed when I called her to tell her that I had a weird experience inside the house. She seemed indifferent as she told me that she would meet me later with a receipt and to cancel the contract. I haven't had the guts to search anything else about the flower woman, about Sandy, and I'm sure I never want to find out what she meant by saying that she had a patch in her garden just for me. I've probably moved once a year ever since I graduated from high school, and I want to tell you about the strangest apartment I ever stayed in during my senior year in college. I followed a listing on Craigslist out of desperation when I needed a place to stay and get out of that super expensive college housing. I finally found one located about 2 blocks away from the school. It was an old house split into 3 different apartment sublets type of things. 2 on the bottom and 1 section at the top where I would be living with another roommate. The girl who already had the place was looking for someone to split the rent with, but warned me right off the bat that the place was weird. She told me that a couple of times she had seen people walking around the kitchen, and that if I saw them too, that I should not freak out too much, but to let her know so that she knows that she isn't crazy. Now this, of course, was a strange request from someone you just met, but I held back my nervous laughter as I said yes, and she handed me the keys to the front door, to the garage, and to my room. I realized what she meant about 2 weeks in. It was a Friday night, and all of my friends were being lame and didn't want to go out, so I ordered a pizza and decided to stay in my room watching movies. Alyssa, the other girl who lived there, was out, so I was alone that night. I would say it was around midnight when I heard pans being moved around in the kitchen, so I thought Alyssa had returned. Just then, I got a text from Alyssa saying if I was awake and if I could let her in because she had forgotten her keys. A little weirded out, I texted back a yes, but said nothing more. I couldn't even move for a few minutes. Now this got a little awkward, so she texted back, "All right, sorry, I'm outside now." To get downstairs, I needed to go past the entrance to the kitchen, and I was seriously considering just locking my room door. But it was too late. Alyssa knew I was awake. So I summoned all of my courage and stepped outside of my room and flicked on the light to the hallway. That's when I saw them. It was an older man and a woman, standing in the kitchen pointing at something outside through the window. The woman was smiling as she leaned back. The man hugged her. Hello? I said. No response. The light to the kitchen itself was off, but the hallway was bright enough that I could clearly tell them apart. I walked closer. Now, I know that people talk about things like these as see-through people or them floating or something, but these were real, actual people standing in the kitchen. I turned on the light, but they didn't flinch. I could hear their faint voices to each other as they spoke in a language that I had never heard before. The way they were dressed seemed pretty normal for an old couple. I walked up and asked, "Are you Alyssa's parents?" They both stopped, pointed at the air almost like saying, "Do you hear that?" And then their distant laughter continued. I stood there in disbelief. I was running down the stairs just as I saw Alyssa's face through the door window. I opened the door as her smile faded. She seemed concerned. "You saw them," she told me. Then she ran upstairs and went into the kitchen. I heard her footsteps before she peeked down the stairs to look right at me. "They're gone. You can come up now," she reassured me. The whole time I was there, I saw the old couple maybe 4 or 5 times, and only once did we both get to see them at the same time. They never showed up in pictures, and there was no way of knowing when they would show up. They didn't get any less creepy for me. But Alyssa, well, she always seemed eager to see them.